Hey, people. So, I had a great call with my coach today, Kareen, who I believe I've mentioned on this post a number of times. And it was really cool because I got a chance to both, communicate to her what that this cabaret went down. She actually remembered that it was happening, and I must have given her the date in advance. She hadn't watched it, but she was aware that it was happening and asked me about it, and we had a great conversation. And she asked me a really great question after we sort of had talked about after I had talked about what felt good about it. She asked me, "Well, does this experience tell you anything about your recipe for success?" And the idea of the recipe for success is that as we go through various experiences and sort of receive the reflection from them, whether they feel successful or not, we can start to look at what factors go into producing what we feel is a successful experience. And the great thing about this is that it's entirely self-determined. There are no external criteria of success that we have to apply. We evaluate the experience on our own terms, but then we can also sort of analyze it and take a look at, well, okay, so they're here, and especially if you do this over time, she was saying that the idea is you'll get a sense of what your recipe for success is. What types of experiences, what types of approaches, what types of principles, what intentions do we bring to what we're doing that produce for us a successful outcome? And I thought this was a really cool way of looking at it, because I've talked on this post several times now about making a rule that it's just going to be that I'm only allowed to have fun as I did any preliminary work for the cabaret leading into this first performance. I was only allowed to have fun. Well, that was the rule that I needed, because anything else, I was up against this part of myself that was going to resist if I put too many if I put too much pressure on it to be highly developed or excellently thought out, excellently planned. I was just going to resist doing it and probably maybe cancel. I don't know. Who knows what would have happened? But the point is, I needed to give myself a rule that allowed me to move forward through and dive into the arena of this work. And that principle of I'm only allowed to have fun might go on my recipe for success, right? That would be like one of my bullets on my recipe is I want to come to my activities with a feeling that they are inspired by joy and enthusiasm and interest and curiosity and play bubbling out of me. That they're right, that's the energy that I bring to the activity. That feels like a very good component of my recipe for success. Some other things I tracked as we then talked about this were, obviously it took courage to do that. I had to decide to do it even though it was going to make me vulnerable, and even though I knew it was going to be imperfect, and I had to accept that it was going to be imperfect, and then I had to do it. And even in the moment of doing it, realizing that it was imperfect, feeling like, oh, this is working, oh, this isn't working, oh, this is working, oh, this isn't working. That internal toggle, which ideally, in performance, it's great if we can turn that off. But if we can't turn it off, we at least have to have a way of saying, even if I can't turn it off, I'm still going to just keep going. I'm just going to let if that tape wants to play, fine, go ahead and play, but I'm not going to make that front and center in my awareness. That takes courage, right? That takes a certain amount of courage to be willing to walk through that fire Then there was a principle of, one of the ones that popped up is consistency of action over time. And I noticed that, like I was saying in my post, I believe yesterday, the ease, the relaxation, the peace that came from doing that cabaret didn't come from doing the cabaret and just finally being done with it, because now I never need to do it again. It didn't come from that at all. The ease came from commencing a journey that I intend to turn into a practice, that I intend to become consistent over time. And so consistency over time was another principle that I found, that's actually really important to me. I want to feel like I'm moving through a learning process here. I want to feel like I'm getting better at this. I want to feel like the product is improving. All those things, right? All those things that only really happen with time. I also felt like one of my principles was a willingness to be vulnerable. Willingness to be vulnerable really showed up. It's related to courage, but it's not entirely the same thing. Because just being there and open, not hiding from that space of, I don't know what's going to happen here. I want to make a really beautiful, cool thing, and I don't know quite how I'm going to do that. Sitting with that and letting that be okay. That was another principle for me that really felt, it's something that I can say I'm proud of having done, but it's also something I can say is important to me, and it contributes to my feeling of something being successful. If I'm not made vulnerable on some level by the process, then I'm probably playing it safe. I'm probably playing it too safe. I'm probably not leaning into that next risk enough. And the last one that came up, or the last one I can think of, that was really important was doing something on my own, doing something that is where I am truly the final, I'm the sort of like the buck stops here in terms of what this thing is. The reflection is that I'm getting from my audience and from people is something that I have to take. I can't share that burden of responsibility with a collaborator. I can't point to an assignment that somebody told me to do this, or a commission where they said, this is what we want you to do. This is entirely on me. The whole concept, top to bottom, and everything in it is my, I represented lots of other people's ideas, and I beg, borrow, and steal other people's ideas all the time, and I can tend to continue doing that. But the presentation, the actual thing, was entirely me. And what that means is, what comes back at me is a reflection of me. And there's no hiding from that. There's no deflecting it into something else. It's just all, I have to take full responsibility. And that, it's interesting because I am the kind of, in my, as I think through my creative practice over the years, I wouldn't say that I'm attached to being the lead artist, being the one in situations. I'm pretty good at collaborating. I enjoy collaboration. I love working with people. And if anything, I would actually say that taking full responsibility on my own and not sharing the responsibility, in other words, not being able to dilute my, the reflection with like other people's contributions or other people's energy or input, that's really important for me. that's certainly at this phase in my work, that's important. It's like, step up, show what you've got, show what I have, do what I've got, take that reflection on myself. That feels really empowering. That felt really empowering about what it felt like to do the performance. And it feels really empowering to have kind of claimed that going forward now. I might have people on the show. I would love to have guests on or whatever, but I'm just saying there's a kind of anchoring this in my core as the kind of final place of creative responsibility. That feels really significant. I think that some of that ease that I was feeling was because I had actually done that. And whenever we do that, it relaxes us existentially. We know, okay, even if the reflection is, even if there's things in the reflection that, we might not always be flattered by, we might not even really want to see, but they're true. As soon as we actually declare our willingness to see those things and take those on, there's a relaxation that happens because we're not hiding anymore. We're not lying anymore. We're not pretending. We're not trying to run away or trying to brush stuff under the carpet, or we're just receiving what's really there. And there's something deeply relaxing. No matter how difficult to take the reflection might be, there's a peace and an ease in being genuinely willing to receive it and just not fight it, not repel it, not refute it, just receiving it. It doesn't mean we have to agree with all the reflection. It doesn't mean everything everybody says is true. It just means we take responsibility for what it provokes in others. All those things feel like they're part of my recipe for success right now. They're a big it gives me a really nice way of sort of taking the rule that I started with of I'm only allowed to have fun, and adding courage, being vulnerable, allowing myself to be vulnerable. What are the other ones? Taking responsibility, taking full responsibility. I think there was another one, but I forgot. But anyway, I've got this now. It's like I'm building out my recipe for success, and that's a cool feeling, because it feels like that what I found with that rule that really allowed me to leap into the process. Now even the process itself I get to build on and I get to modify. It's not only the product that I'm going to be working on, like the next cabaret, but I actually get to look at the process and say, okay, here are the elements, here are the pieces that make it feel really grounded to me, and really true, really authentic. So that's where I am today, people. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Again, all of you who saw the cabaret, it's so much fun to have you engaged and commenting and giving me a reflection on it. Very, very cool. Much love. I'll see you soon.